Carolynne Watson, age 17, and her boyfriend, Julian Buchwald, 22, were avid churchgoers in the area of Melbourne, Australia. They met each other at their local church, with the overly excitable Buchwald pressuring her to marry as soon as she turned 18. But Carolynne wanted to complete her education first. They had been dating for 2 years when Buchwald invited Carolynne on a romantic picnic in the Australian countryside. Julian's home was made over a large area of around 5 square kilometers, and at one corner of their huge property, they had a little waterfall where the family usually went to relax. So, both Julian and Carolynne told their parents that they will be back before 3 to 4 in the afternoon. The road to their destination, which was that waterfall, is mostly covered with thick woods, and the road is also very bumpy and uneven. As both driving along the road, looking around and just chilling out, suddenly Julian saw a big carcass lying beside the road. It was unusually big for that area. They passed by and reached their destination, but still Julian was thinking about that big carcass. How did it end up there? It was unusual. They spent a nice time in the water and started wrapping up their picnic. Carolynne was continuously telling Julian to hurry up, as their set time to reach home is very close. They wrapped up everything and started their return journey towards home. As they were passing by a turn where Julian saw the big carcass, he stopped the car and asked Carolynne that he wanted to take a closer look at that carcass. He was very curious about it. Annoyed by all that carcass thing, Carolynne just nodded. Julian was confused as he was unable to find the right spot where they first spotted the carcass. He got out of the car and jogged along the road to find the same. At one turn, finally he found the carcass. The spot where he found the dead animal was around the turn where he stopped the car. So, he was not able to see the car, and at the same time, it was not possible Carolynne to see Julian's spot. Julian went forward to take a look at that big carcass. As he just bent over to take a closer look, everything went black for him. In the car, Carolynne was getting impatient as the clock ticked, and their parents must be getting worried. She looked over her shoulder a couple of times to see from the rear window, thinking she can see Julian running down towards car. But there is no one on the road, no sign of Julian coming back to the car. Irritated with all this, Carolynne got out of the car and started going in the direction where Julian went. Suddenly, a man emerged from round the corner wearing a balaclava and full black outfit. Before she could do anything, the man reached to her and grabbed her with a knife on her neck. Without wasting any time, she was hog-tied, blindfolded with duct tape, and chucked in the back seat and driven 6 hours into the Alpine National Park. When they reached deep into the woods, the kidnapper ripped her clothes off with his knife and threw Carolynne on the ground with her hands tied and blindfolded. Then he went to the car's trunk and took a shovel from it and started to dig a hole in the ground. Around 10 meters from Carolynne, she can hear the sound of shovel digging into the ground. She knew that this was the time the kidnapper was going to rape her and kill her and bury in that hole, or worse, bury her alive. She was screaming for help, but they were so deep into the woods, there was no one to hear her muffled screams. While this all was going on, at Julian's home, his mother got very scared because it's very unusual for Julian not to be on time, because he was a very punctual kind of person. If we look at the Buchwald's home, They have a very long driveway which connects to the main road, and the driveway was protected with fencing. As Julian's mother walked down on the driveway, she saw a plastic bottle which was hanging over the fencing. With curiosity, who hanged this bottle in such a weird way? She unhooked the bottle and saw a folded note inside of it. She opened the bottle and unfolded the note. As she started to read the note, she screamed for her husband. And when Julian's dad arrived, they both read the note. They immediately called the authorities. Police reached Buchwald's property and read the note and immediately considered who was behind all of this. The note read that Julian and Carolynne got kidnapped and do not dare to call authorities if they want to see them alive. And there were strange cryptic symbols all over the letter, and the letter signed by O9A, which is O9A stands for Order of Nine Angles, which is a satanic practicing cult which involves human sacrifice. Now, knowing all these things, police launched massive operation to search the couple. Police knew the importance of the first 48 hours and how crucial they are. When all of this was going on Buchwald's property, in the woods, Julian and Carolynne were praying for their lives. The kidnapper who was digging the hole hit Carolynne with the shovel in the head, and Carolynne went completely black. When she started to gather her consciousness back, she started again to cry out for help, calling for Julian. At one point, she heard someone calling out her name in the distance. First, she thought that her mind started to play games, but she continued to hear her name. And yes, it was miraculously the sound of Julian, who was looking for her. Julian continued to look for Carolynne, following her voice, and found her naked, lying near a big hole with hands tied and blindfolded. Immediately, he rescued her, cut the ties, and freed her. She was in disbelief that she was rescued from such a horrific scene. Without wasting any time, they started to run as far away as they could to get away from their kidnappers. While running and wandering in the woods aimlessly, they stumbled across a backpack which had a sleeping bag, water bottle, and some food bars. It was like they found a treasure in the middle of nowhere. When Carolynne asked Julian how he managed to get away from the kidnappers, Julian told the story from the big carcass, how someone hit him in the head, and when he got his consciousness back, he was tied to a tree. He picked up a knife which was hanging over a big rock. Somehow he managed to grab that knife and made himself free and started to look for her. But the kidnappers came back and he fought with them bravely and injured them, giving him enough time to run away. For the next week, that's right, a whole week, they stumbled barefoot and naked around the bush to avoid their kidnappers. It rained as they repeatedly crisscrossed a freezing creek, sheltering at night in the sleeping bag which they found in a backpack. The fleeing couple took the most rugged routes to deter their pursuers. One night, Julian suggested that they should get physical to keep themselves warm. She refused. On the night 4, he said as they were likely to perish in the cold, they should get married in the eyes of God before they died. Again she refused, saying her parents would not approve. On the morning of 6th day, they came to the same point where the kidnappers left Carolynne. They found her semi-torn down clothes. They grabbed whatever they can, and now semi-covered couple finally reached a road where a farmer helped them to reach their parents' home. Now the police got the information that the kidnapped couple reached home safely. During this whole week, there was not even a single call for ransom or any threats. This was very unlikely for any kidnapping, and mainly the couple was unharmed. Police questioned both Julian and Carolynne to know more about their abductors. As they started to get know more and went deeper and deeper, they started suspecting Julian himself because there were lots of discrepancies in Julian's story. Police found evidence that Julian was somehow involved in this kidnapping. So, after heavy questioning, Julian finally cracked and told the whole story of what went down. To begin with, when they were driving back home, they made a stop to take a look at the big carcass. Julian said that he deliberately stopped the car at such a point where Carolynne could not see him. He changed his clothes and emerged as the balaclava wearing kidnapper. So the person who Carolynne saw coming towards her was no other but Julian himself. So the whole time it was only Julian who was playing mental tricks on Carolynne. There was no Order of Nine Angles cult involved in the whole scenario. It was just a distraction for the police. Julian himself placed all the things all over the places wherever they went the whole week. It was so shocking for both the families. When asked for the reason why he pulled all of this nonsense kidnapping, he said that he wanted to get physical with Carolynne. But she told him to wait for over a year as she was about to complete her high school. Julian thought pulling off such a scene will force Carolynne to get physical with him. But Carolynne held her values high and never gave in. Before the trials began, Julian was out on bail. He decided to just flee from Australia to avoid all the consequences. So, he faked an Indian passport and went from Australia to India. But at the immigration at the Indian airport, authorities found his fake passport and sent back to Australia, where he was found guilty of kidnapping and sentenced to jail. So that's it for the today's episode. Please let me know in the comments your thoughts about today's episode. Also, you like such strange and mysterious cases, you can check out my playlist. If you are new to our channel, please hit that red button and turn on all the notifications so that you will never miss any of our weekly uploads. Till then, take care.